Alright, so we're checking out the iFlight Commando 8 Lite transmitter, and this is an Express ELRS transmitter targeted to beginners. So for those of you that are stumbling across this video and you're a first timer, a beginner, you're considering what kind of a transmitter you might want to get as your first transmitter, and you're looking for something really simple to set up and use. You don't want to spend hours and hours of time watching YouTube videos to learn how EdgeTX and OpenTX works and how to program your radio and all that kind of stuff. If you don't care about that kind of stuff, you just want a simple radio, get you in the air and fly, this is something you may want to consider. It does come at a lower price point compared to the Commando 8 non-light version. The regular version, I think, has EdgeTX on it, has more capabilities, also a higher price point. I did do a review on that one, I think, about a year ago. So if you're interested in that, I will link that down in the video description if you were looking for maybe a more capable radio at a higher price point. Now, essentially, it's the same case and the same form factor, the same gimbals, as far as I know, the Hall sensor gimbals here. You do have the option of selecting your different stick sizes. I think the default is 18 millimeters, and they have two longer ones available. If you happen to buy this at the iFlight website, you can choose a longer stick, and the stick ends do unscrew out. You can take them off like this. So if you're worried about them breaking in transport, you can pull them off. So you just have 4 switches available to you here. So you have a latching switch over here, a 3-position switch here, another 3-position switch here, and then a latching switch here. So these latching switches are 2-position switches, and these are 3-position switches here inside. And this is basically just 8 channels. So you got your 4 channels for your aileron or the roll, pitch, and then you have your throttle and your yaw axes. So it's channels 1, 2, 3, 4, and then channels 5, 6, 7, and 8 are here. And that is it. And there's nothing else to configure, nothing to set up. That is all you're going to get. And these 4 channels for the switches also correspond to your aux channel. So this will be aux channel 1, 2, 3, and 4. There is a cover here for a replaceable antenna. So there's an internal antenna on here as the default option on this one. If you want to get the larger antenna, the collapsible one, you can swap it out, and there are instructions on how to open up the radio, and there's a little dip switch on the main board to swap out the antenna, so you can use the external one if you want, although the power is limited to 100 milliwatts in this one. So you generally don't want to get this if you're thinking of going long range, but for those of you just starting out in FPV, you probably should not be doing that anyway. So the 100 milliwatts on Express ELRS should get you plenty far, in terms of range and penetration. You should be able to fly as far as you pretty much would ever want to as a first timer. The back of the radio is a little bit different here because this is not a expandable radio like the original Commando 8. So this is just a cover here. You can't put an external module in here. You just have the internal ELRS module inside the radio, and that's it. On the bottom here, you have a little slot here. It's supposed to be for like a micro SD card slot on the original radio, but there is none on here. So it's just basically a dummy opening here, and it's actually blocked, so you can't actually drop anything inside the radio. Got your power button here, and then you have your USB-C port here. There's a little cover. I guess I'm not sure if you really need that or not, but that's just there if you want to protect that little USB-C port, and that's for charging and also for connecting to your PC or Mac for simulator use. It'll basically show up as a USB joystick. Plug that in, and then you can connect this to your simulator. So again, if you want to use this as a starting out radio, you can do that and fly your simulators with this radio, no problem. Over here, you got your loop for your neck strap, and then you have your trim buttons here. So it's a 5D button here, so you can press them down and also trim the gimbals this way. And then here's just the cutout for where the screen would be for the original radio. There's no screen in this one, of course, because it's a very simplified system here, so there's no screen, just a sticker. Now the firmware on here is based off of Express ELRS version 3, so obviously you're going to want to get your receivers are going to have to be version 3 receivers. This will not work with version 2 receivers. And the firmware is going to be upgradable in the future. There's instructions in the manual on how to upgrade the Express LRS firmware as well as the radio firmware itself. So in the future, perhaps additional features might be added to this radio in a firmware update, and you can update the radio firmware as well. And I'm showing you the instructions straight from the manual here. So to turn on the radio, you're going to short press the power button and then long press. And you get the lights like that, and it'll turn on. You get your little battery meter here, so the 3 out of 4 is mostly charged. When it's not connected to anything, this blue light will just kind of fade in and out. When you have a connection to your receiver, it'll be a solid blue light. To put the radio into bind mode, all you have to do is long press the power button while the radio is on for 2 seconds. Here's some beeps. So while this is in bind mode, which is only for a few seconds, you want to make sure your receiver is in bind mode, and then it will automatically link up, and then you'll have a connection to your receiver. So if you're wondering about receivers to get, iFlight did send along their latest Express LRS 2.4 gigahertz receiver. It's one of these little nano receivers here. It does have plugs, long ones and a short one here, to plug to typical plugs that are going to go on like iFlight flight controllers. And this is the other side over here that goes into the receiver. And then you have their standard T antenna here that plugs into the, I think the microFL connectors right there. I heard that this is an updated version that has, I guess, the new TCXO, I guess, temperature compensated crystal oscillators. I guess all the latest receivers these days from pretty much every company are coming with that now. That just adds a little bit more reliability and like a wider variety of temperature scenarios. So pretty much that's the only difference between this one and the previous generation receivers. But I'll link this down in the video description as well if you're looking for a receiver to go with this particular radio. So the last thing I do want to mention is that it does come with 2 18650 lithium ion cells inside. They're 2,000 milliamp hours each, and I believe it's in a parallel 1S setup, so it's 4,000 milliamp hours total. And I believe the total power time is like 8 hours, I think, but I'll put it up on here on the screen. I'll gotta check the product page. It's a very long power on time for one of these beginner radios because it's got the larger cells in here. So if you're looking for a radio that has basically longer power on time without having to charge it as often, this one does come with the batteries included in the price. It is currently $63 on iFlight's website right now. Prices are going to vary depending on where else you particularly happen to pick this up at. I don't know where else it's currently available. Maybe AliExpress. I'll add links to the video description as I become aware of them, but right now I think iFlight's the only one selling this currently. The regular price is $69.99 or $70, and so like a lot of people are going to be wondering, well, why get this versus say like the Radiomaster Pocket, which is $65? But you have to keep in mind that at that price, that radio does not include any batteries, so you have to buy the cells, which are $10. So it's actually $75. But currently, right now, this is actually less than the price of the Pocket. The Pocket doesn't come with batteries, whereas this one does. Now, of course, a lot of people that happen to have a lot of experience in FPV, we're going to push people that don't have experience in FPV to get a radio that has EdgeTX or OpenTX because they're assuming that that person is going to want to add those additional capabilities, programmability features down the road. And that might be the case for some people. It might not be the case for some people. So I would say that, if you are like, at some point looking to add more features and are willing to spend many hours learning the radio's operating systems that are out there, like EdgeTX or OpenTX. And by the way, it isn't like, a 5-minute tutorial. Some of these programming features are pretty complicated. And, if you are looking to do some pretty complicated stuff, you're going to have to spend some time watching a bunch of videos and tutorials to learn that stuff. But if you're like one of those, and there's a lot of people that don't need more than 8 channels, don't need more than 4 switches, and in a lot of cases when you're flying drones or FPV drones, that's going to be good enough. I think the only limitation of this radio is the fact that it only does 100 milliwatts. But if you're not flying super far away, you know, it's probably not going to matter too much. So this radio should be fine for most people, especially if you are really hesitant to spend a lot of hours learning about EdgeTX and OpenTX. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Links will be down in the video description to all this stuff, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.